Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz, and welcome to episode 7 in our campaign game with Sherman Leader, the 2017 Wargame from Verssen Games. Now, week 1 went pretty well for us. We took out 2 German battalions, but week 2 is a different story. We're going up against a large German tank battalion, so we have a lot of armor versus armor action coming up in the next few episodes. Let's dig in and get started. As we start week 2, let's take a quick overview of the campaign so far. In our first week of the Italy 1943 invasion objectives, where the German forces are invading and attacking us, we picked up 9 victory points. And in order to get this great evaluation, we need 18 or more. So we need to pick up 9 victory points in the next 2 weeks, which actually has us in a pretty good spot right now. So let's go take a look at the objective map and figure out what our options are. So we have 4 German battalions left in the campaign. This large tank force, which is up at the front here, worth 5 victory points. 2 smaller ones, a small tank force and an artillery unit, worth 3 and 2 victory points. And then the extremely large headquarters unit worth 7 victory points at the enemy rear lines. Now we would have to pay special options points to attack these units, and we only have 1 left. So theoretically we could attack one of these 2 units and the large tank force, but the large tank force is a large tank force. As we can see here, it has 8 tanks and 10 other units, so we're going to send everybody against this tank force. So it's us versus the large tank force, 1 battle in week 2. Let's dig in. The first thing we do at the beginning of a week is draw a special condition card. Let's see what we get. Training. For the remainder of the campaign, all of your replacement commanders start as green instead of recruit. Now, I'm pretty sure the rules mention here too that these apply immediately. So I think, interpreting it that way, that would apply to this week as well, which is good because that means Consul Jr., instead of being a recruit when he starts out, is automatically promoted to the green level. Now, looking at these 2 cards, there's almost no difference. It's just that he gets a +1 on attacks at 0 range, which for a Steward, that probably won't happen too much. But still, any bonus is a bonus, and congratulations on your promotion, Sergeant Consul Jr. Next up, we go right to the event card for this particular battle, which will be our only battle of the week. Let's hope we get something good. These can be positive and negative. This is bad. Bad weather. Units cannot perform range 2 or 3 attacks. For a tank battle? That's nasty. Oh, I do not like this one. I'm tempted to just put it away, but we've picked it and we'll have to deal with it. Next up, we set up the map, and here is our randomized tile set. I'm not quite sure what to make of this one, but my initial impression might be that this might work out fairly well for us. If the Axis forces, so there's a lot of cover where the Axis forces are going to come in, but if they have to advance upon us, we can hole up in this town in the southeast corner of the map, and they're going to have to cover some open terrain to get to us. Conversely, if they sit back and they're rather conservative in their movement, we're going to have to do we're going to have to do what they would have to do. In other words, move across this field and attack them. So a little bit's going to depend on how things start out. This could either be perhaps really bad for us, but maybe really good for us. We'll have to just kind of wait and see how it plays out. Here's a quick look at our units. We have 4 tanks in the battle. Sergeant Consul Jr., who is replacing his father, who was killed in action in the first battle on the Stuart. Sergeant Tawanda, who leads us with 4 kills on the M10 Wolverine. Custard had his Sherman repaired, and he'll be leading the Sherman again. And then Sergeant Myers in his M4 Jumbo, who had an outstanding campaign in our second battle. These will be our 4 armored units in this battle. We'll have 7 infantry units in the battle. Here are 4 of them. Sergeant Hart returns commanding the mortar team. Sergeant Wagner returns commanding his experienced rifle team. They both have tactics as well as our experienced machine gun team under Sergeant Zebra, so they'll have a chance to act twice in one of the turns in this battle. And then Sergeant Headland, who arrived at the battle, had his machine gun team killed from underneath him. He'll be leading a brand new machine gun team into combat this time. Lastly, we have the 3 commanders of our rifle teams. Sergeant Kelly with 1 stress is still at the recruit level. Sergeant Sanders at the recruit level with one of the machine gun teams. And then Sergeant Graham, who had his machine gun team in the first battle, shot out from underneath him. He'll be taking over a rifle team. He's still feeling some of the stress from that action with 2 stress points on him. We set up first, and we move all of our infantry teams except for our mortar team forward into the edge of this town that's on the open terrain. With any luck, we'll get German forces that will have to advance in their setup, and we might have some targets by the end of that first turn. We have to hold our armor back. We've got Sergeant Consul and his Stewart to the right, and our other 3 tanks on the left-hand side. Now let's set up the Germans. Here's the German forces we'll be going up against. We have chosen poorly in terms of armor. And if you recall that when there's armored units in the German force, we draw from a pool of tanks. The weakest ones are the Panzer IIIs, and there's 5 of them in the pool. We only picked 2 of them, however. We got 3 Panzer IIIs, only 3 Panzer IVs, only 2 Panzer IIIs. We drew the 1 Tiger and the 2 Stugs, which are these 3 tanks are the toughest tanks in the pool. So we have drawn a very tough armored force here. Likewise, the Germans have 2 armored cars, 2 rifle units, 2 machine guns, 2 anti-tank guns, and 2 armored cars. So lots of armored targets coming at us. In the rain here with this bad weather and only able to shoot at 1, I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's get the German units set up, though. Here's the situation after the German forces set up. I rolled an insane amount of 8s and 9s to get them in these starting hexes. So most of the German armor, armored cars, and half-tracks all ended up in here. We do have 3 of them scattered behind it and 1 scattered over here to the right. Likewise, the rifle units and the machine gun units started up pretty high, so they ended up, because of their advance orders, moving up here, here, and here. So we do have 1 target in range at the start of the battle. The German anti-tank guns started over here in the woods. I don't know if they're going to make it to the battle. They'd have to advance quite a ways to get involved, and their orders tend to be pretty passive. So we may not see too much of them in the battle. But the whole range 1 factor is going to be interesting. I'm really not sure what to expect with this. A lot will hinge, I think, on the German aggressiveness of their movement, and that's coming up now. Let's roll for the German aggressiveness. This is actually a big die roll because on a 1 to 5, they use a 6-sided die, which is a lot less aggressive than a 10-sided die. Let's see what we get. 7. Nice. So a 10-sided die for German aggressiveness, which means they will be coming at us pretty hard, which I think with the inclement weather is going to work to our advantage. Let's get the battle started. Now, we have 3 units. Sergeant Zebra's machine gun unit, Sergeant Wagner's rifle team, that have tactics counters, which means that we can use those once in the battle and expend them to go before the German units go. And I think in this case, because we don't have that many soft targets and we're not quite sure what the Germans will end up doing, that we're going to have Sergeant Zebra and his machine gun team expend their tactics counter and take a shot at this rifle team. Sergeant Zebra needs 1s or better to hit, so they're automatic hits. 2 8s, nice good shots to get us started. The German rifle team needs 3s or less to survive on both of these rolls. 7 and a 2, we've got our first kill. The machine gun unit's wiped out, and Sergeant Zebra has taken out our first enemy unit. That's a good start. Let's roll for the German tactical movement. Something that gets them moving towards us would be good, so a higher roll is better for us. A 6. That's not too bad. I think we'll see some action and movement towards us. We have advance if cannot attack. If it's an armored unit, advance to cover for rifle and machine gun units. Cautious advance for the anti-tank guns, so they will move forward as well. Let's get going on the German turn. Alrighty, I think we can do almost everything here. The anti-tank guns have movement for cautious advance, which means that they will move towards us if they cannot be attacked, which is true because everything's at range 1. So they will move to the highest cover that's close to us. So the anti-tank guns inch towards us and hold there. All the tanks have orders to advance if cannot attack, so they will move to these hexes which are closer to us. They will move here with the Tiger. It's done. Stuck. Now it doesn't really matter which one of these 2 they go to, so I think we're going to move some of them to one and some of them to the other, but it's really not going to matter as they're going to kind of we can say contract on us as they get closer. So we'll just move some of them to these hexes up here. Now the half-tracks have different orders. We'll talk about that in a second. So all of the German armor moves up here. This rifle unit has not moved yet as well. Likewise, these panzers in the back are going to advance to cover. This is the highest one here. This one will advance as well, but it will move to its best cover option, which is here. Likewise, these two, the Stug and the Panzer IV back here, will move as well. Machine gun units and the half-track still haven't moved, and this Panzer IV will come up here. So lots of movement, and that leaves us with just a few units left to talk about. None of the units that moved are within range 1 yet, so they can't attack. However, let's talk a little bit about these half-tracks. Their movements are advance to cover, and they don't have any cover to advance to that's closer than us, so they hold their positions. Likewise, this machine gun unit and the rifle units all have those same advance to cover orders, so the machine gun unit cannot advance, and it won't. This machine gun unit on the side cannot advance, and it won't. This unit cannot advance to cover, and so it will not move. So, all of the German turn is done. Nothing has closed to 1 hex away from us, and it's now the Allies' turn. So, our options are to move our infantry units into this open field in front of this massive onrushing German armor. And just saying that, I mean, it's obvious we don't want to do that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to hold back. All of our units here are going to hold. However, we will bring some of our other units up. I don't see a better hex for them to move to, so we're going to move Sergeant Hart and his mortar team up here. We're going to move our Stuart likewise into this hex, and our other 3 tanks all pile up into this one small city block. But I don't see a better move for us, and we're going to hope that the Axis forces advance to us in the next turn. But it's too early in the match for us to move forward at this point. We are not going to use any of our tactics counters, so it's time to roll for the German movement and get their half of the turn started. A 9! Excellent! That's very good for us. This actually, honestly, this might have been the biggest roll in the game, because a 9 is very aggressive. So we're going to get AP advance, advance of cannot attack. Everything's going to be coming towards us, which is exactly what we're hoping for. All right, let's get started. This is maybe actually way more aggressive than we would ever hope for, because basically everything's coming at us. So we get this rain-drenched battlefield, German units coming full speed across this field, trying to attack our positions here in this city. This could get pretty wild. We'll start on the right here. Machine gun team storms across the field and takes aim at our units. Now, up until now, I've interpreted in the game, when we have multiple equal targets, the rules basically say you, the player, chooses which target the German troops will fire at. And I've been interpreting that. I'm playing against the system, so I'm picking units that are to our advantage to shoot at. Where this comes into play here is that we have 2 units in this case. We have Sergeant Hedlund's machine gun team, and then we have Sergeant Hart's mortar team that have equal defense and are equally likely to hit. So the rules say we pick. Now, up until now, I would have had the machine gun team fire at Sergeant Hedlund's machine gun team because it's lower special options point and it's not as deadly as our mortar team. So I've been interpreting the rules into our favor. In this battle, I'm going to flip it and do it a little bit differently. I'm going to say when German units have an equal target, that they're going to choose the one that has the highest special operations point cost. In other words, the most valuable unit to us. So this should make the battle harder, and I'm curious to see how it impacts how things plays out. So the machine gun team is going to fire at Sergeant Hart's mortar team. Normally it needs a 3, but because it's charging across the field and moving, it adds 2. We need 5s or better to hit. 7 and a 6. Oof, it's not a good start for us. Not only that, we knocked all our units out of shape down here. We'll fix that later. Sergeant Hart is in high terrain. He has a defense of 2. Because he's in the heavy terrain, 4s or less to the gate. 3 and a 7. So 1 hit gets through to Sergeant Hart's mortar team. We're going to have to pick a damaged hit for him. Hopefully his team makes it through okay. Let's get some good luck here. Not too bad. 1 stress. So Sergeant Hart freaks out a little bit, and he takes up a little bit of stress. Perfectly understood to see a machine gun team storming across a rainy field and taking fire at you, so that's a normal reaction. Let's move this armored unit from out of the bocage. It starts to charge across, it starts to ramble across the field as well, and it will take fire on our armored units. Now again, normally we have 2 units that have equal defense. We have Sergeant Congswell Jr. and his Stuart, and then we have Sergeant Tawanda in his Wolverine. And we could shoot at either one because the defense is low, and because the special options value of the Wolverine is higher, we're going to have the Panzer IV fire at that one, as much as I would prefer it to fire at the Stuart. It has moved, so it adds 1 to its die roll. Normally it needs 3s. It needs 4s or greater to hit. A 4 and a 6. Once again, the German troops have dialed in and hit twice on Sergeant Tuanda's Wolverine. Has a defense of 1, but because it's in the city, it's 3. 3s or less to negate it. 3 and a 1. Yes, Sergeant Tuanda gets some luck here. Both shots ricochet off his tank and go harmlessly off into the distance. Sergeant Tuanda isn't out of the woods yet, as here comes the Tiger. Now we can move to either one of these hexes. We'll just move it to this one on the right. I don't think it really matters at all, actually. So the Tiger will now take aim at the Wolverine. The Tiger normally needs a 2. Because it's moved, it needs 3s or better. 8 and a 5. 2 more shots come flying at the Wolverine. Once again, Sergeant Tuanda needs 3s or less to negate them. 3 and a 4. So 1 is negated, but 1 goes rattling off the Wolverine. Sergeant Tuanda tempting fates here as we pick another damage chit. What did we get? Hull. The hull damage chit goes right on the tank. It doesn't impact the tank's performance, but if it were to get a second one, it would be destroyed. Let's keep moving. The Stug comes forward into the field, charging across in the rain. It too will fire at the Wolverine. It's moved, so it needs 4s or greater to hit. A 4 and a 6. 2 more hits on the Wolverine. The Wolverine needs 3s or less to negate. A 10 and a 3. 1 more hit comes slamming into the Wolverine. Once again, we pick a damage chit for Tuanda's Wolverine. Suspension and 1 stress. So the Wolverine can no longer move, and Sergeant Tuanda starts to feel the stress of the battle. Next up, this Panzer III does likewise. We'll just have it come to the left here for something different. Needs a 4 or greater normally, 5s or greater because it's moved. Firing again at Sergeant Tuanda in the Wolverine. 9 and a 6 and a 6, 2 more hits. 3s or less to negate it. 4 and a 6, 2 more damage counters. Sergeant Tuanda's Wolverine taking a beating here. Let's see what we get. Give us a no effect or something good here. Here's 2. Gun. Oh. Destroyed. 2 stress. Sergeant Tuanda's Wolverine is destroyed. It is removed from the battle. Sergeant Tuanda survives and picks up, so remove this one, and picks up 2 stress, giving him 3 stress, and he drops out of the battle. Gah! The Germans are not done yet. The armored car comes rumbling through the field. It will take... Now it's going to start shooting at Consul Stuart because it is the tank that has the lowest defense, and that's what the AI rules say to do. So the armored car normally needs 5s. Because it moves, it needs 6s or greater to hit. A 1 and a 9. So 1 hit on the Stuart. Needs a 3 or less to negate it. 4. The Stuart takes a damage chit. God, we're getting demolished here. Hopefully we get better luck. Machine gun. Machine gun chit means that the Stuart cannot attack at range 0. That hopefully won't be a factor. This rifle team will still attack. It will move forward. Now, it will pick Sergeant Hart's mortar team because that's the target that has the highest value and the lowest defense. Normally, it needs 5s to hit, but because it's moved and it's an infantry unit, we add 2. It needs 7s or greater to hit. 6 and a 3. Both misses. Excellent. Not done yet, though. This armored car in the field comes rumbling across and continues the German attack. It will fire at Sergeant Consul Stuart. Normally it needs 6s or greater to hit. Oh, sorry, 5s or greater to hit. Because it's moved, it needs 6s or greater to hit. God, sure, this battalion's got it on. It is dialed in. A 7 and a 9, 2 hits. Sergeant Consul needs 3s or less to negate them. 7 and a 5. We have to pick 2 damage chits for Sergeant Consul Stuart. Come on, let's get some luck here. Here is the first one. 1 stress, that's not too bad. The gun. The gun means the unit cannot attack at range 2+, which isn't a factor in this battle because we can only attack at range 1 because of the rain anyway. And once more, the Germans foray forward. Here is the Panzer III. It's going to fire at Consul Jr. and his Stuart. It normally needs 4s to hit. It's moved, so it needs 5s or better to hit. Let's get a little turn of luck here. A 1 and a 9, so 1 hit. Come on, Sergeant Consul. 3 or less to negate it. 7. I'm getting really nervous pulling these damage chits here too. I feel like we've had some really awful luck. There are some that are pretty mild. Gun. Okay. I don't think a second gun matters. So it just says if your gun, you can't attack at range 2, so a second one doesn't impact it. So no effect on that one. That was a little bit lucky. The rest of the German units cannot attack us because of the range rules of this and the bad weather, but they all have orders to advance. So everything coming straight at us, closing the range, very simple moves for them. We can send the half-track here. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's the same distance in range. And then these anti-tank guns start to get pushed forward in the field. So we have a wave of Germans that have attacked us and a second wave right behind them should their advance continue to be as aggressive. However, now it's our turn to get some revenge. All right, we have 10 shots to return fire, and we have 3, 6, 9 units in the field. If we could take out 3 or 4 of these, I'd be pretty happy. Here we go. We have an easy one to figure out. First of all, we have Sergeant Zebra, who is very effective against soft targets, and this machine gun unit is very deadly against our infantry. So, Sergeant Zebra's and his elite machine gun team is going to fire on the German machine gun team. They need 1s or better to hit, which is automatic hits here. Double 1s, which is the worst shot you can make in the game, but because it's Sergeant Zebra, he sends the fire right into the German machine gun team. They need 2s or less to survive. They get 2 rolls. A 1 and a 10, the machine gun team is taken down. Excellent work, Sergeant Zebra. You get your second kill. Now, just for the sake of keeping this kind of organized, I'm going to move the units when they fire to this adjacent hex and then move them back, just so we know what's going on, because it's kind of crowded in here. Likewise, our next attack I think is pretty easy to determine. We want to try to take out this rifle unit, and our infantry units are going to be best at that. But we want to save any infantry unit that has decent attacks against armor to go against the armor rather than the infantry. So we're going to start with Sergeant Kelly and his rifle team. They need 5s or better to hit against this at range 1 or 0. There's no penalties. They haven't moved, so 5s or better to hit on the rifle unit. 2 and a 4. Sergeant Kelly, both shots miss. Next up, let's have Sergeant Sanders and his rifle team try to take it out. Likewise, they need 5s or greater to hit. 4 and a 5. They get 1 hit. Let's get this rifle unit. We need to start taking units down. Their unit needs a 3 or less to survive, 4 or greater, and we've taken it out. 6. Excellent work, Sergeant Sanders. Pick up another kill. The rifle team falls, advancing across the field. Our 3 infantry units of the 7 that are left all cannot attack armor at range 1, so they would have to move forward to attack, which seems like a really bad idea because it would cause stress and put them in the open field. So, our remaining 3, Sergeant Wagner, Sergeant Headland, and Sergeant Graham's rifle team all cannot attack. They will sit this one out. We still have 4 shots left, though, and our mortars can attack at range 1. Now, the question for us as we attack this armor is, do we go for the Tiger, which is a defense of 4 and the highest defense, or some of these other units? And I think we're going to start by going after this Stug, which has a defense of 3 and is nearly as deadly as the Tiger. We're going to have Sergeant Consul and his Steward open fire on that. Sergeant Consul needs 7s or better to hit. 2 shots at the Stug. Let's get something. 3 and a 5. 2 misses. That's not good. Let's have Sergeant Custard and his Steward and his Sherman try to take a shot at the Stug. Now, he normally needs 6s or greater to hit, but he has +1 at range 1. So he needs 5s or greater to hit. 2 shots at the Stug. 9 and an 8. Excellent. 2 shots, 2 hits on the Stug. It needs 3s or less to survive on both of these. That one's offside. A 7. It doesn't matter. We got it. Nice. Sergeant Custard picks up a kill, and the Stug is knocked out. That gives us 1 armored unit down and 2 shots left to go. Let's have Sergeant Myers and his Jumbo try to take out this Panzer IV. Normally they need 6s or greater to hit, but because Sergeant Myers is a good shot, 5s or greater to hit on the Panzer IV. 7 and a 3. We get 1 hit. The Panzer IV needs a 3 or less to negate it. That's painful. That was a big shot. Bounces off the Panzer IV harmlessly. All right, let's have Sergeant Hart, our last shot, try to rain some fire down on the Panzer IV with the mortar. Surprisingly, its armor-piercing attack is actually a 6. Sergeant Hart's a good shot, so it needs 5s or better to hit. 6 and a 1. It gets 1 hit. The Panzer IV needs a 3 or less to survive. A 4 or more, and Sergeant Hart's knocked it out. A 2. Oh my gosh. That brings us to the end of turn 2. Unfortunately, I think in our last battle we had a lot of luck in one of our turns, knocking out a lot of German units, and they couldn't hit anything. I feel like this was the flip, the reverse of this. The Germans had some really amazing shooting. They've knocked out, they took out the Sergeant Tuwanda's Wolverine, so we're down one of our 4 tanks already. Sergeant Consul Jr.'s Stuart has been beaten up. It's got a gun gun damaged, and his machine guns knocked out. We still have 6 armored units, including 4 tanks in the field right coming at us. Behind them are 3 more tanks, as well as 2 half-tracks, machine gun team, and 2 anti-tank guns. A lot's going to depend on how aggressive the German move is in the next turn, but if all of these units come forward again, we are in serious trouble. Now, we do have the Sergeant Hart's experienced mortar team can use its tactic counter to fire before the Germans move, so that will give us 1 more short shot before they move. But unless our luck changes, I feel like we're in serious trouble. In any case, we're going to stop here. Let me know what you think. Feedback, comments is always greatly welcome, and boy, things are looking pretty dismal for us so far. Unless our luck changes, this might be a rough battle. Thanks as always for tuning in. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, please consider subscribing. We'll be back in a few days for the middle 2 turns of this battle, and hopefully we can turn this one around. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day.